The ancient Chinese discovered various phenomena in nature and explained them through the balance of yin and yang. However, yin and yang alone were insufficient to fully explain complex phenomena. To address this, they further divided yin and yang into 4, 5, 8 categories, and so on, aiming to describe these phenomena with greater precision. The 5 phases is one such classification system. It explains the energies of the natural world using 5 categories. The 5 phases as an imaginary classification of energies. This system is similar to dividing departments within a company. A company can be divided into 5 or even 10 departments. What matters is not the names of the departments, but their functions and areas of responsibility. The importance of relationships in the 5 phases. The key point is that the ancient Chinese believed that 5 primary energies influence and transform each other, thereby giving rise to natural phenomena. The 5 phases is the result of studying how these energies restrain, complement, and transform one another. This concept is similar to the regulation of yin and yang. Ultimately, the 5 phases is simply another name for yin and yang. When trying to understand the 5 phases, do not focus solely on the descriptive words for each element. Instead, imagine their energy, much like interpreting a poem, not by analyzing the words themselves, but by feeling the emotions and impressions they evoke. The reason these 5, or rather 4 qualities are depicted together in one diagram is intentional. Instead of trying to understand each phase individually, you should compare and contrast them to grasp their interconnected meanings. The sprouting of new buds and the growth of infants embody the energy of wood. Wood is characterized by rapid changes, and in nature this dynamic quality is symbolized by wind. In Korea, when someone suddenly becomes excited and starts something new, people often ask, "What kind of wind has inspired you?" Both spring and wind share the attributes of wood, representing initiative, commencement, and excitement. The energy of Mu marks the beginning of life in the yearly cycle, filling nature with a fresh and invigorating scent. In the I Ching, wood is described as Ku Ji, illustrating the process of something bent, straightening out, akin to spring water bursting forth, a compressed spring releasing, or the surprise of a jack-in-the-box. The energy of fire is hot, rising, and represents a prime state of activity. If wood is the sprouting seedling, fire is the tree in full bloom during the height of summer. Summer is when the energy of fire is at its peak. The hottest time of the year corresponds to fire, just as the hottest phase of human life, youth, a time of physical strength and vigor, is also fire. In the I Ching, fire is described as Yanshang, symbolizing flames burning intensely and ascending upward. The energy of metal is cool, dry, and symbolizes contraction, the force that draws everything inward. If the energy of wood represents the start of a season in spring, autumn corresponds to the season of harvest. In human life, it aligns with middle age, a period of transformation and change. In the I Ching, it is described as Kongji, indicating a time for adaptation and reformation. Unlike the outward expanding energy of wood, metal's energy gathers inward, focusing on consolidation and organization, counterbalancing the expansive nature of wood with contraction. When metal energy is excessive, it can lead to sadness and a sinking emotional state. When balanced, it brings stability, but if deficient, wood energy may dominate, causing frequent excitement or overactivity. Water energy is defined by its cold, descending nature. It corresponds to winter and shares similarities with metal energy, though it is colder and does not gather inward, but rather flows downward. Think of waterfalls. In winter, trees shed their leaves and dry out, while animals retreat underground. This season marks a pause in life activities, as everything returns to the earth. In the I Ching, it is described as runxia, which means to flow downward. The energy of earth mediates and governs the interactions between the rising and falling energies of water and fire, and the collecting and dispersing energies of metal and wood. In the I Ching, it is referred to as jiase, meaning sowing and harvesting grain, symbolizing both the beginning and the end of all things. Practice. Would you try to associate 4 directions with 5 phases? The south corresponds to fire, while the north corresponds to water. This is simply yin-yang. The east represents the energy of yang, specifically wood. The west represents decline, and thus corresponds to yin and metal. Any questions? Is it okay to you? In the northern hemisphere, the south is warm, corresponding to fire, while the north is cold, corresponding to water. In the southern hemisphere, would it be the opposite? Yes, it would. North, south, fire, and water are all just names, like fingers pointing to the moon. Do not be deceived by the names. They are merely labels attached to things that possess the qualities of fire or water. Names like south, north, fire, and water are interchangeable. You could just as easily call them lava and waterfall or Mars and Mercury. The fingers may change, but the moon remains the same.